Disclaimer. Please forgive me now for there may be mispronunciations in this video. It was 1488 when there was a 15-year-old girl named Agatha who had gotten pregnant by an unknown man to history. The story of the conception was that Agatha was visited by the devil in disguise as a handsome young man. Agatha was brought to the local magistrate in an attempt to get the name of the father, but Agatha, who was also thought to be a witch, accused the magistrate of impregnating his two household servants, and the case was dropped. Agatha became an outcast and went into the wilderness, where she found and lived in a cave next to the River Nid in Knaresborough, England. The infamy of this cave was well known already, for having contained a pool which was in the shape of a skull. Agatha would give birth to a baby girl on a July night during a huge thunderstorm. And while Agatha laid alone, Ursula's soothsaying came to life. However, her life would immediately become subject to a life of scrutiny and controversy. Ursula was supposedly born with an ugly appearance that was very witch-like from birth, but apparently she immediately possessed supernatural forces. Her appearance was described in legends as her having a twisted body, a large crooked nose, and goggled eyes. After 2 years living in the cave and Agatha struggling to provide, Agatha's plight would be noticed by Abbot of Beverley, who offered assistance in the form of a local family who would take Ursula in and look after her. Agatha would be taken away to a distant nunnery in Nottinghamshire, where after some research done by others, she died a few years later at the nunnery, never having been reunited with her daughter. One day, it is said that Ursula disappeared from her crib and was nowhere to be found. Her foster parents asked neighbors for help, but when they arrived, a poltergeist threw them around the room. Furniture moved, plates flew off tables, and baby Ursula and her crib were found halfway up the chimney. Another story, which I am unsure is supposed to be the same story but told differently, is that she was a toddler when she was found cackling in her foster mother's kitchen alone with pots and pans. When she was a teenager, she was walking by a group of men of the parish that started to mock and insult her, which they called her the devil's bastard and hag face. She ignored them, carrying on to do her errand for her mother. But later on, one of the men found his ruff turned into a toilet seat. Another one of the members laughed, and he found his hat turned into a chamber pot. The others tried not to laugh, but one woman was unable and found herself breaking wind so loudly that everyone laughed. To see what was happening, the innkeeper came running down the stairs when he got stuck in the door frame from a large pair of horns that had grown from his head. The trick vanished, but the townspeople took it as a sign not to insult Ursula. Even though the townspeople learned their lesson, Ursula dealt with the community by journeying off into the forest and into the cave where she was born. She studied the local woodland to such a great detail that she was able to make potions, remedies, and concoctions made from the local flora. She got so good at it that she became known as the local herbalist, where people would come to her to cure their ailments. Regardless of her looks, at the age of 24, she would marry Toby or Tobias Shipton, a local carpenter. This day onward, Ursula would become known as Mother Shipton. I'll start calling her this throughout the rest of the video in respect of her name, as this is what she's known as. A month later, Mother Shipton helped a neighbor who had some items of clothing stolen from her home. But mind you, in some tales, it was someone who stole an item of clothing from Mother Shipton. The following day, a woman went walking through the town singing, "I stole my neighbor's smock and coat, I am a thief," before handing them over to Mother Shipton and leaving with a curtsy. 2 years after the marriage, Tobias Shipton passed away. It is unknown how he passed, but Mother Shipton became a social outcast again. This led her back to the safety of the woods. She would soon dabble in an odd premonition. People would come to her for her prophecies. She'd come to explain events in history that would eventually happen. One such was the Great Fire of London, and another the Spanish Armada. She apparently even foretold the horrors and death of the Black Death of 1665. There were local predictions as well. One that would mention the Ooze Bridge. It mentioned that water would come over the Ooze Bridge and reach a windmill that would be set on a tower. That claim did not make much sense until a water system was introduced that brought water across the Ooze Bridge in pipes that reached a windmill. Another local prophecy included the destruction of Trinity Church, which would fall in the night till the highest stone in the church be the lowest stone on the bridge. Not long after, a terrible storm occurred, destroying the steeple of the church and causing it to land upon the bridge. Her prophecies increased her fame, and her abilities extended far, even to King Henry VIII. He mentioned Mother Shipton in a letter to the Duke of Norfolk, which he mentions a witch of York. And while her reputation grew and reached King Henry VIII, it also reached his right-hand man at the time, Thomas Wolsey. In one of her prophecies, she referred to Thomas as the miltered peacock's lofty cry shall to his master be a guide. The description alludes to Thomas's lower class background as the son of a butcher, before he rose to become a chief advisor to King Henry and guide his policy making. There is a pamphlet that dated back to 1641, which is one of the earliest surviving records of her predictions, where she foresaw Thomas Wolsey's fate at the time of his demise. After he had fallen out of favor after failing to secure the annulment of King Henry VIII's marriage to Catherine of Aragon, on a journey between London and York, he died of natural causes. Although she was very popular, Mother Shipton remained elusive. At the age of 73 in 1561, she died, but no one is sure how. And though she is gone, her life and powers continue to be talked about even till this day. I'd like to also apologize for any noise in the background. This was the only time I was able to film and do a voiceover, and yet still there was a lot of commotion going on. So please forgive me. I hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, and subscribe.